Society tells you being a loner or overthinker is bad, but a surprising study found that highly intelligent people actually became less satisfied with life the more frequently they socialized with friends. In other words, what makes most people happy, endless chatter and companionship, might just bore you. And that overthinking you've been told to stop? One study on anxiety found chronic worriers actually scored higher on IQ tests. Shocking, right? These are just a couple of the signs that your quirks might secretly be signs of genius. If you are the kind of person who enjoys your own company, overanalyzes everything, or feels like an outsider in a shallow world, then you have found your home. Subscribe to Timeless Wisdom to better understand your own mind and connect with a tribe of deep thinkers just like you. Now, let's dive into the everyday habits and traits that only smart people do and see how many sound like you. You overthink, but in the smart way. You might catch yourself analyzing everything, not out of fear, but out of curiosity. Rather than reacting on impulse, you question your first instincts and consider deeper alternatives. Psychologists call this cognitive reflection, the habit of second-guessing quick answers and reflecting before you decide. It turns out this trait is linked to higher problem-solving ability. A 2022 meta-analysis found that people who show more cognitive reflection tend to score much higher on cognitive intelligence tests. In simple terms, you don't just worry, you wonder. You dissect issues, replay conversations, imagine outcomes, not because you're crazy, but because your brain is wired to dig for insight. While others might label this overthinking, you're actually engaging in deep analysis, which is a hallmark of high IQ. Insatiable curiosity. Do you constantly ask why? Do random facts and new ideas fascinate you? Highly intelligent people tend to have an almost childlike curiosity about the world. Research from University College London tracked 17,000 people over decades and found that higher IQ in childhood predicted much greater openness to experience in adulthood. Openness to experience is the Big Five personality trait linked to imagination and curiosity, basically an intellectual hunger. So if you love learning new things, exploring odd theories on Wikipedia at 3 a.m., or finding yourself lost in thought about how the universe works, it's not a distraction, it's a sign of your hunger for knowledge. In fact, curiosity might be the strongest personality clue of high intelligence. Your mind feeds on novelty. Every new experience or tidbit of information is another treat for your brain. And while society might roll their eyes at your random interests, remember, asking questions is a superpower. It means your mind refuses to settle for the surface answer. That's something only true thinkers do. You talk less and observe more. In groups, you're not the one flapping your gums nonstop. You might even be the quietest person in the room, but you're far from disengaged. On the contrary, you're absorbing everything. Tone of voice, body language, hidden meanings. You notice the details others miss. Psychologists sometimes call this active observation or active listening, and it's tied to both intelligence and emotional awareness. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus is quoted, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." Smart people use those 2 ears. Rather than blurting out every thought, you pause and process information. You choose your words carefully. And guess what? This thoughtful silence often means when you do speak, it carries weight. You're not wasting breath on nonsense. You're the person who can summarize a chaotic hour-long meeting in one insightful sentence. While chatterboxes might get attention, observers earn respect for their perceptive comments. Your quiet, observing nature is basically a sign of a high-processing brain at work. Self-doubt and humility about what you don't know. It sounds paradoxical. How could doubting yourself be a sign of intelligence? Here's how. Truly smart people understand how much they don't understand. You might frequently feel like, "I'm no expert," or worry you're missing something. That's actually a strength. Studies show that people with lower ability often wildly overestimate themselves, while high performers are more realistic and sometimes underestimate their skills. This is known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, a cognitive bias where the least competent have the most unwarranted confidence. Meanwhile, the sharpest minds practice what's called intellectual humility. You're not afraid to say, "I could be wrong," or "I have more to learn." In fact, one famous quote attributed to Socrates goes, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." Your willingness to admit ignorance means you keep learning. You seek truth rather than ego boosts. Yes, you might second-guess yourself more than the average person, but that little voice keeping you honest is proof of your wisdom, not a weakness. It keeps you sharp and pushes you to grow long after know-it-alls have stopped learning. We've covered the basics: overthinking, curiosity, quiet observation, and humble self-awareness. Those are pretty relatable, right? But we haven't touched on the most important part yet. In fact, the next traits we're diving into cut even deeper, and one of them is the #1 reason why people are actually jealous of you. If you're excited to unlock that insight and want to support more content that validates who you are, then hit subscribe now. It really helps us continue exploring these topics for you. Go ahead, we'll wait a second. Subscribed? Great, now let's get into the deep stuff. You treasure solitude and deep thinking. Do you often crave alone time to just think and recharge? High IQ individuals often do. It's not that you hate people, you just don't need constant social stimulation like others might. In fact, a 2016 study in the British Journal of Psychology found that more intelligent people were less happy the more frequently they hung out with friends. Sounds crazy, but think about it. Your mind thrives on ideas, introspection, and creative projects. Small talk and gossip 24/7 can feel draining or trivial. You likely prefer one-on-one conversations or solo hobbies where you can immerse in thought. Evolutionary psychologists suggest this is because smarter brains are adapted to focus on long-term goals or abstract problems, so they aren't as satisfied with idle chit-chat. Your solitude isn't a sign of loneliness, it's a sign of focus. You might take long walks alone, journal, meditate, or just daydream in a quiet room, and you come away feeling recharged. Others might even be jealous of this independence, even if they don't realize it. Why? Because you don't constantly seek validation. You're comfortable in your own company, a rare and powerful trait. As Lao Tzu wisely said, "He who knows does not speak. He who speaks does not know." In your peaceful solitude, you're silently growing in knowledge and creativity, while the world chatters away. Your mind is always in overdrive, aka daydreaming. Teachers may have scolded you for staring out the window, but it turns out your daydreaming is another sign of braininess. Your mind is like a high-powered engine that doesn't idle well. When tasks are too easy or conversations too slow, it takes off to entertain itself. A study from Georgia Tech found that people who reported frequent mind-wandering scored higher on creative and intellectual tests. The scientists concluded that some brains are so efficient they have excess capacity, so they daydream to stay occupied. Sound familiar? While your body sits in a meeting, your thoughts are inventing stories, solving yesterday's problem, or suddenly connecting two ideas in a eureka moment. Far from being lazy, your wandering mind is working overtime behind the scenes. In fact, one researcher joked it's like the absent-minded professor or the gifted kid in class who figures out the lesson in minutes and then checks out to imagine other worlds. That's you. And here's the funny thing, you probably still catch everything important. You might drift off mentally, but you can snap back and recall what was said after, amazing your friends who thought you weren't paying attention. Don't let anyone make you feel bad for this. Many of humanity's greatest ideas were born in daydreams. Your imagination is a sign of an active, creative brain that refuses to be confined by the here and now. You have a unique, even dark, sense of humor. Not everyone gets your jokes, which is exactly the point. Truly smart people often develop a quirky, sometimes dark wit. You see irony and absurdity in the world that goes over others' heads. Believe it or not, there's research on this too. A study at the Medical University of Vienna in 2017 found that people who appreciated black humor, think morbid, twisted jokes, scored significantly higher on both verbal and nonverbal IQ tests. They were also less aggressive and in a better mood than those who didn't get the dark jokes. So, if you laugh at things others find weird or you enjoy clever satire, it might be because your brain processes humor on a more complex level. Your mind thrives on nuance and surprise, the key ingredients of wit. While average jokes bore you, an unexpected twist or a bit of gallows humor delights your intellect. It's a strength, not a flaw. Humor is actually a form of creative thinking. By making unconventional connections, laughing at the wrong thing, you're showing mental flexibility. Sure, a few people might give you side-eye when you drop a dry, brainy one-liner or chuckle at a dark meme. But that's only because they don't see what you see. Intelligence lets you find light in the dark. It's your secret superpower to turn pain into punchlines and complexity into comedy. And it means you can handle life's challenges with a smile. Why are you this way? You might have wondered that your whole life. Maybe you felt out of step with others, too analytical, too curious, too quiet, or too picky about friends. I'm here to tell you, you aren't broken. You're exactly what you're supposed to be. The world desperately needs people like you. The deep thinkers, the questioners, the ones who pause while everyone else rushes. Without people like you, we'd have no philosophers, no inventors, no great artists or visionary leaders. Your ability to reflect, to remain humble and keep learning, to imagine possibilities, and to stand apart from the crowd is a gift. As Socrates said long ago, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing, and it's precisely your awareness of life's depth that makes you wise. So, next time you catch yourself overthinking or preferring a quiet night alone, remember, this is your mind's way of growing and creating. Trust it. It's okay to be different, because your kind of different breeds innovation and insight. If you felt understood today, join us by hitting that subscribe button. We'd love to have you in this community of the curious and thoughtful. And if you want to know why you also hate small talk, click the video that's appearing on your screen right now. I'll see you there, and until next time, stay true to yourself, deep thinker.